This leg of the Grantham Canal route runs from the Leicestershire village of Hickling and ends up in the heart of Nottingham alongside the River Trent. Starting out from the Hickling Basin, the route heads west along the canal bank, twisting north-westward to skirt the village of Kinoulton. Next it heads north to Devil's Elbow, and then northeastward before heading north past Oddhouse Farm. Then the route follows the old canal roughly north before turning northwestward after passing Cropwell Bishop. Going under the A46 road, the canal path next turns sharply southwards before looping east and then northeastward through Cotgrave Country Park. The canal path passes westward alongside the Nottingham Golf Course and Nottingham City Airport, before traversing a badly marked route across the A52, before twisting northeastward through the outskirts of Nottingham itself. After hopping across a few stretches of roadway, the route comes to an end north of Nottingham Forrest ground alongside the beautiful River Trent.
This morning we're back in scenic Hickling and we're going to be heading off down the next bit of the Grantham Canal. So starting off, heading westward out of Hickling again. The interesting bit about this stretch of canal is after a short while we reach a bit that's been a dried up part of it. Still get to walk along it, but I suspect there'll be not a lot of water visible at that point. It's a lovely day, it's just before 8 o'clock in the morning. I think it's going to be about 25 degrees at the most. It rained heavily yesterday, so I have expectations it's going to be quite humid down this route. Not as humid as if I'd been in the fields though. That's the good news. And of course I'm going to finish today, well at least the plan is, in Nottingham itself. And then catch a train home, which would be a novelty. I don't often get to do that. Not many train stations at the end of my walking routes, but it certainly makes getting home a lot easier. Due to various circumstances, it's been about 2 or 3 weeks since I did my previous walk along the canal, and I have to say, coming back, I'm just reminded of how beautiful it is. I'm also reminded, because it's early in the morning before a work day, I'm going to run into a few dog walkers, I suspect, for the first hour or so. There's one ahead there now. But that's not going to stop me doing filming in and around them. Obviously, going to be featuring their dogs. But just look at that. Look at that beautiful lush greenery, which is probably hiding all manner of wading and waterfowl somewhere. Anyway, next up along this path is the village of Kinoulton, about a mile away from my current location. So there we are, just passing through the edge of Kinoulton. Slight confession to make. About 3 weeks ago, I went for a short walk down this stretch, from just a parking area down to Kinoulton and back with Mrs. Llama. She is not big on long distances, it has to be said. And, 3 or 4 miles she considers a long enough distance for her, frankly. You can tell that's why I do these walks on my own. But it was still nice, but it also means, actually for the first time in ages, got an idea of what's ahead of me for the next 3 miles. And as I recall, it's pleasant walking. There's a memorial to troops. There's a memorial avenue of trees. That's quite moving to see. But other than that, lots of canal bank like this with plenty of hard standing. Can't really complain. Very lovely when you come across just those little war memorials scattered around the country to local battalions, local folks who fought and died in our forces. It's also nice to see something like that. It's just such a natural environment to admire. So that long series of trees that leads away in there as a memorial to those who fell in the Somme from that battalion. Half a mile back, I passed a very nice swan sitting by the side of the path. I took a wide route around them, as you know, swans, that they can be a little grumpy if you get too close. He looked fairly sleepy, to be honest, but all the same, I thought for the best, especially if they've got any cygnets around. It's quite lovely down here because there's lots of tree cover. I am hoping there's lots of tree cover on a lot of this route, but I may be much mistaken as time goes on. I shall see. Good morning, friend Swan. Good morning. Always lovely to see. Now, by my map, this is the last section of the canal for quite a few miles that is actually still marked as a functional or semi-functional canal. It does start again after a while. It's also the last section I walked with Mrs. Llama those other weeks ago. So beyond here, once again, I am going to be very much in unknown territory. I do recall though, but before that, there's a beautiful rickety bridge that I'll try and capture on film shortly. I will not be crossing it. It bounced far too much when I got on it. There we have it. One charming, if rather rickety looking bridge, and I can assure you, from having walked on it the other week, it is quite rickety indeed. It bounced with me as I was then. I'm wearing about 8 kilos more of kit today, so I am definitely not going to walk across that. Well, now beyond the open canal, it's all full of trees, and the path is a lot more overgrown. I don't think as many people come down here. Yesterday we had very heavy thunderstorms in the area. It's one of the reasons I'm doing this route rather than walking across the fields, because all the verges are saturated, and now so are my legs. Okay, I've concluded this bit is about as fun as walking through the oilseed rape field the other week. Sorry, bee. Oh, it is a bit heavily overgrown, to say the least. I am now actually saturated up to my chest level. And for those of you keeping track, I'm just under 6 foot, which gives you an idea of how high this lovely foliage is. Oh look, civilization across there. I'd get me map, but my map's absolutely saturated as well at this point, so I don't pull it up and check. Oh, such is the thrill of hiking down a route in summer after heavy rains. Oh dear. I'm worried about the foliage steaming too much later on and raising the humidity. I think it's going to be me who'll be steaming and raising the humidity at this rate once I hit some sun again. Well, that was the most fun I've had so far this morning. Oh, until this, where I've got to duck under a tree. Scramble through on my knees. About a mile of that terrain I've just been through. Oh, finally the path has opened up a bit more. And look, there's almost a hint of a canal down there, even though we're still marked as dry canal section. But oh, I am very wet. Even my shoes are sodden through now, and they're waterproofed. So that tells you how wet it was. Oh dear. Still, it was very quiet down that bit. There certainly wasn't anyone else walking down it. I can't blame them. Oh look, the camera looks a bit fogged. I'm going to have to give it a quick wipe. Yes. Well, hopefully, the next stretch of this, which is coming to a road, won't be quite as overgrown. But it's still marked as disused canal, so it could be. Just coming alongside the edge of Cropwell Bishop now. It's good to see a bit of civilization again, and nice to see this path even though, like I say, still listed as unreclaimed, but passable, far more passable. Just running alongside the Althorpe Road to my left. I think we pass under it in a moment, so I'm hoping there might be some tunnel action, which is always fun, provided the tunnel, of course, unlike that one on the previous stretch of the Grantham Canal where I had to crawl on my hands and knees, at least the tunnel is passable, I will hope. Well, I shall find out shortly, no doubt. Oh, how disappointing. No tunnel. I have to walk across the road. Well, that is very disappointing indeed. At least, though, it's a fairly quiet road, he says, checking left and right. And the path, as it carries on, looks reasonably clear. Well, by the way the path is cleared and I can check my map, I believe we are back onto a stretch of renovated canal again, or maybe just on the fringes of it. We're coming up to a bit where the canal will be passing under the A46. I'm hopeful I'll be passing over under the A46 because I really don't fancy having to try and go over a major road. But as usual, we'll see what the junction actually portends when we get there. I was just thinking when I was walking along a few minutes ago that how nice it is there's a lot more cloud cover than when I did the Grantham to Hickling stretch. That said, now the sun is out, there is a little breeze, but the humidity is climbing. So, oh, that's going to be fatiguing as I walk on. But hey, I could have sat at home and done nothing today, so who am I to complain? I'm out here in the great open outdoors of Nottinghamshire, alongside a beautiful stretch of canal, greenery and wildlife all around me. Honestly, I wouldn't want to be anywhere else right now. Fairly sure no one's passing through that lock. It's quite overgrown. And yes, we go under the 46. Well, there's at least some head clearance here. Not a lot. Bridge 18A is the one for the 46th. Yes, thinking this is still technically a very dry stretch of canal. Not a lot of water there, but we are still on the canal towpath. Maybe there'll be some more water shortly. We're somewhere north of Cotgrave at the moment, and I've just noticed in the canal next to me the first traces of water once again. So I think we officially are back on the canal side rather than the former canal. And as in the distance the A46 fades away, which is a good thing, I just thought I'd answer a question I'm sure a few viewers might be wondering, which is, why is this called Walking with Llama Paws? Well, that's because I've been known as Lord Llama for quite a long time by friends and colleagues. It's always been my kind of sobriquet on the internet. And because walking with dinosaurs was a programme some years ago I quite enjoyed, and you know, paws, walking, it all kind of came together into Walking with Llama Paws. So basically it's a terrible and not very funny pun, is the answer to that question. Aren't you glad you know? Anyway, it's good to be back alongside the canal proper now, and some overhead cables, but not hold the gimbal up too high at this point, don't get struck by a bolt of electricity. But yeah, we are well on our way. I think we're about 6 miles from the destination at this point. I'm only saying that because I passed a sign that said 7 miles to the Trent about a mile ago. Before you think I've got amazing navigational skills, I should probably know if a better guess when I see the next one of those, which probably will be like once I've entered into the edges of Nottingham. Look at that, that's a proper working lock. Plenty of water in it. And as you can see, the path by this point, a lot easier to traverse. But then I am getting a lot closer to Nottingham now. I mean, one advantage of getting close to an urban environment is the path is going to be much easier to traverse. The drawback is there's more people around, so it's harder to film without accidentally filming them going about their everyday business. And I do try to avoid filming other folks without asking their explicit permission. Oh look, 5 miles to go. Well, I'm not sure how accurate they are, but it's just nice to see them along the route, and maybe I'll be seeing them every mile from this point forward. As I say, this is much clearer than it was earlier on, and the path is actually properly tarmacked and clear. Humidity is a little better here as well, but there's a bit more shade, so I'm not so much in the direct sun. I think some of the early stuff's boiled off already, which is a good thing. One thing that's noticeable the nearer I get to bigger urban areas is, of course, when you pass people and you say hello, folks who are near to cities are far less likely to respond. In fact, some of them look like you've gone mad for even speaking to them in the first place. Oh, fair enough, but yeah, it's not going to stop me as a typically British walker saying hello to pretty much everyone I meet along this canal path, making the assumption that they're out for an enjoyable stride. Ooh, I lost my hat there while filming. Well, we're well beyond Cotgrave and the Cotgrave Nature Reserve and Park. There's a golf course to our right there. Always a good way to ruin a walk, go for a golf. Although I confess I still quite like a little bit of golf myself. I'm just terrible at it. I keep expecting to see Nottingham in the distance, because at this point I must be less than 4 miles from the end, possibly the end of the route of the canal. But yet I haven't actually really encountered Nottingham, which probably means I'm going to round the corner up ahead and there will be the city centre of Nottingham ahead of me. Or maybe I'll sneak in through a little known rural section of it. I don't really know this part of the world that well, actually, so can't guess. I do know though I'm about to go over the edge of my map and go onto the other sheet. That's probably when I'll look and I'll go, oh, I am virtually in Nottingham. So let's see what happens in the very near future. Well, that was well timed. Yes, that means I am now on the outskirts of Nottingham, because that is Nottingham City Airport. It's only an airport for light planes. Oh, hello, dragonfly. I just noticed a couple of planes landing ahead of me. I was trying to catch them on film, and I'm very pleased I managed to get a bit of landing footage there after all. Yes, in the distance, and it's probably about 3/4 of a mile further than I thought I'd be at first seeing it, I can now begin to see the fringes of Nottingham. A few tower blocks, quite a few houses, factories and the like. Oh, and that looks like a big busy road. I do hope I'm going under that, not over it. So yes, we are approaching the urban stretch of this walk, and if you have watched any of my previous videos, you know I'm not a big fan of urban walking. It's kind of nice to start an urban environment and then walk out of them into the countryside, and I've got a walk like that planned out of Leicester soon. However, today, the logistics of it, trying to work out a good place to get dropped that wasn't restricted, because as you'll see at the end of the walk, the final location has a little sporting activity going on around it, and so the streets are pretty much shut off for casual drivers. Anyway, it just seemed too much hassle to try and get myself dropped off there and then start walking. So I decided I'd do it from the Hickling stretch to Nottingham. Then my preference would have been to Nottingham to Hickling, and obviously get more and more rural as the walk went on. But still, it does mean a goodly chunk of this walk is now behind me. Just as well, because it is still quite warm and very, very humid. Never to be said I walked past some waterfowl without filming them. Some nice teenage gooselings over there enjoying the riverbank. Well, canal side. To a goose, it's all a riverbank. It's all goose domain. And look, a little baby moorhen. Oh, several little baby moorhens. Okay, that's quite exciting. Don't often see those. And a big armada of ducks. Well, the rumble of traffic has gotten ever louder for the last mile. I suspect that's going to be an omnipresent factor of the rest of the walk. It's to be expected as you walk into a city, isn't it? Although I am still surprised quite how relatively rural it is. There's a lot of nesting birds around here, a lot of young coots and other animals too. I've kept seeing along this particular stretch, which is rather lovely. I wasn't expecting that because I've not seen as many of them on the Hickling. I can hear some now. Here we are, another road to cross. And then beyond it, we really are into Nottingham, I suspect, by then. Don't let the trees fool you. This is just the green space of a city. I mean, look, there's a pub and everything there. That's definitely a sign of civilization, as it were. It was interesting as well, is that this is clearly not as well maintained or well trodden a bit of track. Is that because now we're into the city proper, it's no longer the Canal Trust looking after it, maybe? Because certainly the sections you can see where the Canal Trust is looking after it, it really is immaculately well kept. They really do a stunning job. But oh look, another dragonfly we're chasing down the path. You can't see it, by the way, but there feels like there's clouds of steam wafting around me at the moment. So yes, that the combination of what is, well, it's 11 o'clock-ish at the moment, but that means it's British summertime, so that means the sun's at its zenith. So it's from this point onwards for the next few hours, it's just going to get steadily hotter and steamier. Oh yes, the plants in the shade are definitely still quite damp as I brush my hand against them. Oh, in fact, getting to the more industrialised part of the city might actually be quite good, because it will mean less foliage. And that's not something I thought I'd ever say. So yeah, that was the worst bit yet. Came up a set of steps from the canal side, basically onto an embankment next to a dual carriageway, and there was no clearly marked route across. So, you know, quarter of a mile detour down the dual carriageway, back in, over an embankment, and finally finding the canal path again. So that bit, I'm not sure it's Nottingham County Council or whether it's the Canals Trust that needs to do a lot more work, but that is a poor section of this route. And it's the first time I've actually had to go off a piece to do something. Anyway, back on track now anyway. You know, Nottingham, I was all prepared to think this would be the rubbish bit of the walk. That, oh, well, you know, it'd be a canal side, long side dreary buildings, but actually, this is still a really nice route. There's still plenty of wildlife. Hello, ducklings. And coots. I mean, there's plenty more people down here too, which is nice to see them explore this nice bit of nature in the city. But it very much is a green corridor. We need more of these in cities. I've seen them more on the continent than in Britain. In big cities. Milan particularly is good for this. But yeah. Wow. Lovely. Yeah, no, so still, I mean, I'm footsore, but I am definitely still enjoying myself on this bit of the route. As I get close to Trent Bridge and the football stadium as well, I am wondering how much this will continue and how much it will turn into just normal inner city grimy canal banks, but we shall see. And I'm just coming up to the 12-mile mark. There should be another couple of miles of walking still to go before the end. But no, well done Nottingham, well played. Well, technically this is still canal side, because the canal's just on the other side of those hedges, but there's currently no actual path to walk alongside it. So I'm walking alongside this fairly busy road, alongside the canal still. Hopefully I can rejoin it for the last chunk. Ah, that looks promising. Is that the way back in, I wonder? That does look like a path, that does look like the canal side once again. Haha! It's only a few hundred yards, thankfully, along this busy road. There's not too many other diversions like that. And here we are back. So yes, it's noisy with the traffic here. But it is still a green corridor, so there is still the benefits there to mind, body and spirit of walking through this bit rather than alongside houses and directly alongside thundering cars and lorries and the like. But it's definitely not as charming as the Hickling end. And now at the edge of the sports ball stand, and after a bit of a trek down the A6011 Lady Bridge, finally you can get back on the canal again proper. Now, unless I am very seriously off kilter at this point, this is the final stretch. And from here, we will reach the Trent. Now, interestingly, I've been counting down the bridges and the bridge numbers ever since I started the other week from number 67 near Grantham. Now, the last actual bridge number I saw was 4A. I was really hoping there'd be a bridge 1 I'd get to see, but no. And of course, as we come to the end of this hike, it's my time to remind you that if you've enjoyed this video, please give me a like, because, you know, makes it feel worth it. It was worthwhile me doing the walk and doing the video. Of course, if you really want to make sure you get all my videos, don't forget to subscribe to all of Walking with Llama Paws. And if you've got friends and relatives who would like to enjoy these quirky explorations of myself, be sure to share this with them on whatever social media channels or email, whatever you've got. Family newsletter even. Although the links are generally not that clickable. I have my suspicion that that might be bridge 1. That might be lock 1 anyway. Because I know, because I looked at the far end of this on Google Maps to work out where this would actually come out. And, oh yes, there it is, Nottingham Office Equipment. That's across the River Trent from here. So this is it, folks. That's the final bridge. And this is the final stretch. There it is, the Trent dock number 1. There it is. And, oh, maybe that's bridge 1, of course, because it's the very last bridge. But there we have it. The Grantham Canal in 2 stages, all the way to the glorious River Trent, with Nottingham Forrest football ground in the background, and the Environment Agency straight behind me. Well, that was an interesting walk. The urban section was a lot less urban than I thought it was going to be. The last mile, not a lot of fun. There was an awful lot of crossing onto roads, plodding along roads. You were no longer walking along the nice canal, but we're here now. We've finished it, and well, I can start planning my next walk after this. So thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you with the next Walking with Llama Paws.